Well, ready or not, winter is here, and I'm not ready. There's been a lot of things going on here over the last several weeks. I'm not really going to get into the details of it. Been some health issues with a family member that's taken a lot of our time. So I haven't had time to get prepared for winter. But it didn't wait on me. So today I have got a couple of bales of hay I'm going to throw out here for these ewes. I don't have their troughs, their mangers set up yet. They need to be rotated off of this pasture. I haven't got things ready for that yet. And as you can see, I have not got their water ready yet either. That is frozen. So for the next few days, I'm probably going to have to come out here, break the ice, bring them a bale of hay, throw it out here, and, well, kind of just do the best I can till I get a chance to get things caught up a little better. Of course, the hoses that I had ran out here, I've had to disconnect because they're freezing. I've already had one little plastic fitting freeze and bust on me. Got me all wet the other day when I figured that out. So I'm probably just gonna have to bring them maybe a little bigger trough, carry some water out here for them for a few days until I can kind of get things caught up a little bit. I actually have a water up by the barn that I can put some heat on and it won't freeze, and that would be good for them. But right now, the way things are set up, the only way I can let them run to that is to also put them out here on this new ryegrass that I planted that I really would like to save until spring, because they would get out here right now and that would just be the end of it within a week or less. I also need to bring the other ewes back from the summer pasture, and that's when I'll put all the ewes together, put my rams back together, and kind of get all this situated. Besides the fact that I just haven't really had a lot of time, there's the issue, if they're over there, these two rams over here, one of which I'm going to keep, and the other one I have actually got sold, but it's going to be about a week before they come and pick him up. I really don't want to put all my rams together and then in a few days have to take one out. For one thing, when I put them together, it does increase the risk of something getting hurt, and I don't want any of them to get hurt, especially one I've already got sold. And locking them in the barn, they get a little dirty looking. They usually don't eat quite as well, so they lose a little bit of weight, and I don't want all of that going on before they come and pick up this ram, who is in good shape and doing real well. So again, that kind of pushes back my timeline of how I can get things coordinated. So for now, do what we can to keep their water thawed out. During the winter like this, they really don't drink as much water, so it's not as big a deal. But I do have to keep water to them. And I can bring them a few bales of hay now and then and just throw out here in the field and let them eat through that until I get a chance to get everything really set up the way it needs to be for winter, like I should have done, 3 or 4 weeks ago. But it's just the way things work out. Here, sheep. To make things a little worse, right now I've got the sheep divided into 3 groups. I've got a group over here running with the ram. I've got a group with the summer pasture running with the ram. And you probably can't see them, but I've got 2 other young rams out here. So that gives me 3 groups. The fewer groups I can have, the better. I'm not quite ready to bring the other group back from the summer pasture. I'd like to get all the use out of that grass over there that I can. And then when I bring them back, I can put all the rams together. So I cut down to 2 groups, rams and ewes. But that doesn't help me this morning with the frozen water that I have. So all that being said, what I'm getting into today is actually a project that I started a while back. I think I did a little bit of video about it, but let's close this gate. The water is frozen out there for the ewes, where I've got the hose running out for their water. I've got to get that thawed out. It's not going to take much. I'm hoping a little bit of sun on it this afternoon will thaw things out and I'll be good to go. But I might need to take like a heat gun out there and put just a little bit of heat on a couple of spots and get that going. The issue is I don't have electric out there to plug a heat gun in. That brings me to the project that I guess I'm just going to have to get on it and get it finished. My power box. I've got another battery to put in here. I need to get that finished up so I can plug the heat gun in and use that. But as you can see, my workbench is kind of occupied. I've got about 4 projects going on here. One of which is a smaller battery box that I fixed up for my wife and daughter to use in their soap sales, where they need to run a computer and things at their festivals where they don't have electricity. So I'm going to finish this up and get it off the workbench, get it out of the way. I've added a couple of lights here to the end of it. I gotta wire them up. Don't pay attention to my messy wire job, because I did this kind of in a hurry for their soap thing. And I probably, to be honest, won't go back and straighten it out. But what I'm doing today, I'm going to finish up these lights, get a switch mounted for them, and this thing will be done. And it'll have lights on one end. On this end, I've got 2 different USB-A or the USB-C. I've got a regular auxiliary plug, like for the old cigarette lighters. I've got plugs here for the Anderson power points. And I'm going to add a switch right in the middle here for the lights. I've got this switch I'm going to use for the lights, and what I intend to do is have it so when I flip it one way, one of the lights comes on, the other way, both lights come on. In the middle, lights will be off. And the way this switch is set up, I'm going to put a hot wire in the center, one light to the bottom, one light to the top. But what I've got to do is add this diode. I'll solder it on here. And that way, the power, when I flip the switch one way, this bottom terminal will be hot and turn one of the lights on. The diode will stop the flow of current from going around and turning the other light on. But when I flip the switch the other way, then the top one will be hot, and the diode will allow current to pass, making the bottom one hot also, and therefore both lights will be on. I've already put this thing on here temporarily, make sure it really does work. So now all I need to do is mount the switch in there, solder my diode on here, and hook my wires up. So that project's done. We have 1 light. We have 2 lights. 1 light, 2 lights. Now this big box is going to be a lot more involved than the other one. I've already done some work to it. I've already added a couple of little exhaust fans on here because this one could generate quite a bit of heat. I've got my display on here. I like this display much better than the one on the other box. It's got a nice color display. It gives you a graph of how much your battery is charged up, how many amp hours you have. It shows your amperage, your voltage, your wattage. And this one will actually show your wattage draw as you're using it, and then as you're charging, it will show a positive so that you know how much you're getting in there. Now this one, I've set it up for the 100 amp hour because it currently has a 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery in it. This is my 2000 watt inverter that I've mounted in here. And I have another 100 amp hour battery I'm going to add to this one. So I'll have to readjust my meter to let it know it's got a 200 amp hour battery. I intend to run 120 volts from here to a plug on the outside. I haven't decided where I'm going to put it yet. The other thing I am going to do different on this one, I'm going to add a big disconnect switch, probably mounted in the back there, so I can just shut this thing down completely and not drain the batteries, particularly with this much battery power in here. You got to keep in mind that the inverter itself draws some power, so as long as it is turned on, you're going to be draining the batteries even if you're not doing anything else. So in order to keep from having to take the lid off every time, turn this off or on when you want to use the 120 volts, I'm just going to put a big disconnect in the back. So with all that, let's get started on it. I'm going to run this cable from the positive terminal over to my disconnect over here, and from the other positive terminal over to my disconnect. Although my box here is not done, I've got it to the point I can use it for the job I need it for right now. And that is to help thaw out this water. I think the problem is it's frozen right here in this brass T. So although this isn't done, I can get to some 120 volt here right now by opening it up and get a heat gun on that and see if we can get it thawed out. This thing putting out a lot of heat. I know that doesn't look like much, but there is water flowing. As long as we got water flowing, we're okay. One thing you got to keep in mind on these floats like this, these are designed for a pressurized system. So when I've just got it hooked up to feed by gravity, it feeds pretty slow, but as long as it keeps moving, it will stay ahead of the sheep. Especially this time of year, they're not drinking that much water anyway. They might drink a gallon a day for each one of them. So if this thing gets full and it holds about, well, probably where the float is set on it, it's holding about 25 gallons of water. So that's more than enough for them to each get a drink all day. In fact, here they come over to check it out. Let's see if they want any water. You're more interested in the side by side, aren't you? Well, they don't act like they're terribly thirsty, so that's a good sign. So it took me about 5 to maybe 7 minutes to get that thawed out. I was pretty sure exactly where it was frozen, and then once I could get a little water moving, it'd be okay. And this thing worked out pretty good. I used really not over about 2% of the battery in this. It's a 200 amp hour battery, actually two 100 amp hour batteries in there, running a 1500 watt heater. So that worked pretty good. And I guess the ewes are wanting a little bit of water. They're not drinking like they're super thirsty. So that little experiment seems to be working out. I think I'm gonna like this. Of course, you can buy these, and I don't know, you might be better off buying one. I don't know. I think I saved quite a bit of money by building it myself. I've probably got $500 maybe in putting this together for a 200 amp hour with a 2000 watt inverter. Of course, I got some pretty good deals on some 200 amp hour batteries, which was most of the cost. I've got a 2000 watt inverter, and of course then this Harbor Freight roll around toolbox to put it all in. Some other odds and ends like the little display meter and things that go on the front. It would certainly be easier to just buy one, and it would probably be a little more self-contained and maybe a little easier to use. I don't know. This worked pretty good for me, and I'm glad I've done it, because there's no electricity over here to get anything done like this and thaw that water out. All right, girls, I know you're plenty warm, but I'm cold. This is definitely not a long-term solution. I think I can get by a couple of days like this. Hopefully I can get by until just a couple more days of really cold weather. And when that other ram gets picked up, it'll allow me to really get my sheep organized the way I'd like to for the winter time. Another problem solved. Well, heat gun, it's 2 for 2. This one took a little more, so I'm down to 87% on my battery right now. I know these hoses and trying to water in these water troughs and things like that is not a long-term solution at all. It's only supposed to be cold like this for about 2 or 3 days. I think I can get through that, and then it's supposed to warm back up a little bit for at least 4 or 5 days. And because of my work schedule and other things going on, I have just not had time to get things ready for winter like I really needed to. Hopefully over this next little warm spell, I can get things set up, get the sheep moved back where they're supposed to be, and get all that situated. Sometimes things just don't really work out like you hoped. They don't work out like you planned. You just got to make do with what you got and make the best of the situation until you can do something a little better. And I know if you look at the grand scheme of things, the most important things are that you keep your faith in Jesus, you do what you can for your family, and all that other stuff will work out. So I got faith it's all going to work out. So I appreciate you watching, and see you on the next video.